Well, so we're ready for the newspapers.
And by the way, Mama V sends her love to you all this morning.
Yeah.
She couldn't make it due to some, shall we call it, geographical constraints.
Yeah.
Yes. But
That'll be it.
She'll be back before you know it. We miss you, Mama V.
Well,
we hope you're watching.
Good morning to you, Mama V. And as well as one of our colleagues whom you are stranded there with.
Yes. Should we mention his name? Derek Ekosam. Yes, he's also stuck in the same geographical constraints, but for different reasons. Yes. He's currently seeking the help of various
herbalists. All right, so let's do the daily graphic.
Oh, listen, before I do this, I promised I would say a proper thank you to those who run the Oak Plaza Suites in Kumasi. It's in the Arc building just next to the Asokwa overhead. And look, if you've ever been to Kumasi, the next time you go, please try them out. They are fantastic. When you go, speak to Rich Love. Rich Love is in charge of giving you the best, most luxurious experience of your life in Kumasi. So please, don't forget what I said and thank me later, all right?
Oak Plaza, Kumasi.
Yes.
The next time I go to Kumasi, Oak Plaza. Anyway, so we'll do the daily graphic.
Yeah, why not? So headlines, 30 children abandon school. They pitch camp in church. Pastor accused of indoctrination. Worrying story. I'll give you the details in a bit. Ghana drawn with Cameroon, Algeria and Mali for the 2018 Total Women's AFCON. And then Isuchari tilapia deaths not from poisoning, according to the EPA. And then a curious story. Irish arrested at Tema Port, a restricted area. So a person believed to be an Irishman was arrested for loitering in the Tema Port restricted area. But it's a curious story. I'll tell you more later. Let's see what's on the back page. Ghana drawn with Cameroon, yes. Cameroon, Algeria and Mali for the AFCON Women's Tournament. Auditor General goofs again, according to the front page of the Daily Guide. Also, Abronye takes on Mahama over BA roads. Sierra Leone president arrives today. And banner headline, Baumia fires NDC over dirty propaganda. Show us your social policies, he said. I wonder whether the NDC will also be responding and saying, show us your wealth creation policy. Politics is just ridiculous sometimes. But anyway, that's what the Vice President is saying. And I can also share with you the front page and back page of the Gold Street Business. We will resist CTN policy, Guta tells government. Don't manage without HND, 5-year experience. GTA reminds hoteliers. And 4,731 metric tons of staple food traded across 2 major corridors in West Africa. That ought to generate some good money. MTN congratulates 2018 West Africa Media Excellence Award winners. That is on the back page of the Gold Street Business. I'll do maybe 2 more, shall I?
Yeah, you can.
Okay then. So I will do, let's have the Business and Financial Times. Been keeping an eye on that one. Rescue fisheries sector now. Stories on page 3. NTEs drive air freight business. TUC says 2019 budget statement must tackle economic challenges. And on the back page, 3 celebrate 10 years of cooperation towards trade facilitation and quality. Also, let's support agriculture, the economy's backbone. I'll do the Independent. Don't sell fertilizers to cocoa farmers, Mahama warns Akufo-Addo. And NDC express fear over decline in food production. Maybe one more. Statesman. Ghana will build Western military base to keep oil resources safe. Show us how you soothed Ghanaians' hardship. That's Baumia daring the NDC on the front page of the Daily Statements. And also sex pests in Ghana out in the light. Page 11 has all the detail.
All right, so let's start with the Finder newspaper, follow up to all the newspapers that Kujo did. Kelny, GVG set to operate. GRA to cough out over 200 million Ghana cedis to Suba Info Solutions in an out-of-court settlement, remembering that injunction we placed earlier. And Dr. Anwar receives AAG's Special Recognition Award. That's Advertising Association of Ghana's Special Recognition Award. Then we have Vice President challenges NDC to show evidence of hardship mitigation interventions. So those really are on the front page of the Finder newspaper. Now let's go to the Daily Dispatch newspaper. It has on the front page, Akpafu chiefs say no to joining Oti region. And they claim they've been opposed to joining the new region since 1941. The other story occupying the front page of the Daily Dispatch newspaper, NDC's national chairmanship race, Ofosu Ampofu fits regional balance strategy. Okay. On the back page, that ongoing story started from last week. We before had some argument on it on the AM show. Replacing experienced staff could derail academic progress. UTAG Legon president Kojo is a proponent.
Yes, indeed.
Of making sure that the old lecturers stayed on the campuses of the universities to impart knowledge and also do some transfer of knowledge as well.
They're not like factory workers. You can't replace old ones with the new and expect to have the same output. Now, so let's apply some thinking to the problem. Right. If that's what our law says, then fair enough. Auditor General has no choice. But then let's look at the law, and those who are responsible for doing that, those who are capable of doing that, are our lawmakers. So they'd better step to it before in a few days we end up losing some of the most valuable of our intellectual resources here.
So we're told, in the world of science and technology, as well as in academia, it's how old the wine is that gives us the best of the sweetness. All right. So the Ghanaian Times newspaper has on the front page, justice delivery system to be scrutinized, and the story is attributed to the president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. His picture is attached to the story on the front page of the Ghanaian Times. We also have Katanga students clash with KNUST security, 11 arrested, 1 injured, and this one we have some very bizarre as well as very horrid pictures of the students who was severely beaten. Advertisers bill before cabinet, but the other story on the front page of the Ghanaian Times, Lands Commission to revoke licenses of recalcitrant surveyors. Surveyors. Tego rattles Namibian to win WBO Africa Lightweight Crown. That's on the back page of the Times Sports, the Ghanaian Times Sports. And water crisis hits Bolgatanga. The story is filed by Samuel Akapule from the capital, Bolgatanga. All right, so this story quite interesting. Took a turn reading it before the close of the evening yesterday. In the publisher, it says Baumia slams NDC, says Ghana better and the MPP. But the story about minister questioning telcos for tariff increases. It has a picture there of Ninyi Georgianda, Deputy Minister of Communications. And then we do the last paper. Okay, but on the front page of the Economic Times, new telco tax kickstarts. And we also have the Today newspaper. Imani makes U-turn over Kelni GVG contract. The story is on page 3. A lot of things happening as far as that is concerned. Well, those will be the stories we're looking at this morning.
Yes, indeed.
All right.
Okay, where do you want to start?
I want to start with the minister. That's Ninyi Georgianda, questioning why the telcos needed to increase tariff, or needed to increase the pricing as far as the call was, or the service they provided for the ordinary Ghanaian.
Okay.
And it's also in relation to, you know, we spoke to the chamber of the Ghana Telecommunications Chamber. Ken Ashigbe is the chief executive, and rightfully he said that once there is an increment in the way they undertook services or processes and the inputs to the ordinary consumer, and even to them as a telecom company, they also just needed to absorb some of the costs and also push some of the costs to the consumer. And when you speak to him, you get to have a certain, well, they claim that whatever it is, they're also observing some level of cost, even within this tariff regime as we have it. But we all know this has come about because we've decoupled the way we calculated VAT. And so now we have the Get Fund levy as well as the National Health Insurance levy separated from the 12.5% VAT. This brings to the fore the argument about whether doing that in the first place didn't mean that consumers were likely to pay more for services which usually will charge VAT. And the other taxables as it is. And the deductibles, if you take a look at it, is quite, if you have to count the number of times or the quantum, it's quite huge by you look at the end of the financial year. And already we're told that services or the charges on telecoms is a bit high if you compare to perhaps some of the more developed African countries on the continent. And if we can do something about it, all the better. If we can.
I never cease to be surprised at the constant animosity between government and telcos. I don't quite understand it. It seems it's been a long time since they agreed on anything. And it is particularly strange now because we have as our minister, Ursula Owusu-Ekufo, and as deputy, we have Nengi George Anda. Both of them have worked in the telecommunications industry. So it is a source of bafflement to me.
Why?
That we're currently looking at a situation where these historical problems, they are historical, they are not new. Things like, are you paying the right tax? Why are you passing this on to the customer? Why don't you do this? Let us scrutinize. Let's bring in a company to monitor. All these problems existed when these two were in the telco industry. And they had to grapple with these same problems and had to try and push back against government to explain to them, we're not hiding anything, we're paying all our tax. Now they are in government and the tune has changed. I am eternally confused by it. I don't know what on earth happens when people go into government office. That immediately changes their fundamental structure as human beings. But right now we're looking at this thing and the problem is, what's the way forward? Are we acting like we don't have tax laws in this country? I'm sure we do. The same tax laws that define how VAT is paid, how it is passed on, and the fact that the person who passes it on then retrieves it from government. That same law, also there is a law that applies to straight taxes and levies, and whether they are to be passed on or not. So why is there confusion? Why would the two sides of this matter have different perspectives on it? Why are we even down to perspectives? Why don't we just rely on the law?
Yeah, and if you take the matter into also another discussion platform or perhaps realm, you also get to wonder whether one of the entities, in terms of the chamber which represents the telecommunication companies, needed to have a certain buy-in from government before. And the response usually, and it was not only Ken Ashigbe that I spoke to, a number of individuals who are my friends who work in middle level as well as high level management in the telecommunications companies. And they said, once government has gone to parliament, made a formal announcement, and that has taken effect in other sectors, and even informally on the market, then what precludes the companies also from implementing same and thereby looking at which side of the business is okay for them in terms of what the numbers will be for the individual companies, and so possibly push the prices and the effects on the prices for the consumer. And I think it makes a lot of sense, because once a tax has been passed, it becomes a law. It's been assented. So it means that all that is left is for it to be implemented. Have it in mind that the GRA already is on the heels of some other institutions to implement some other taxes. Let's say the beverage industry. They are on them and cracking the whip that if you don't implement, we're going to institute sanctions against you. So here lies the case. The telecom industry we're told because of sometimes the figures that they tend to post, especially the leading ones, create a certain mindset on the mind of perhaps whether those in government or the ordinary citizens of our country that they make so much money. But we also have to take cognizance of the fact that a law is a law and a tax is a tax. So that is why perhaps there should have been exemptions, I'm thinking, when the tax was being passed or was being announced, so that you say that perhaps maybe if it's for the telecom sector, then you cannot pass this on to the consumer.
So to be clear, what is George Ander's problem? What is he saying? That they shouldn't have implemented it?
No, he's saying that they should have implemented, but it was not a cost that they should have passed on to the consumer.
So they should have borne the cost?
Yes.
Well, is it a matter of opinion? Or is it a matter of law? What does the law allow them to do? Are they allowed to pass it on?
Well, the law doesn't say or not say how you. The point is, you look at your overhead. You look at what sort of financing you're using to work with, and then the pricing regime that you work with.
But who does not include the cost of tax in their pricing?
Yes.
Who does not do that? So they wanted the telcos to basically just do what, adoye? And just pay the tax to government.
Absorb it a bit. So, but I think that on the other hand also technology is changing by the day. Indeed, there's 5G elsewhere around the world. We have not even come to terms with getting
4G spectra yet.
We haven't even come to terms with even spreading or deploying the technology in the first place. Not even to say 3G, because if you go around the country, you still see E, you still see 2G, you still see even some of the 3G areas still not stable. So it means that we're even far away from getting some of the best technology. And so it means that these companies would have to implement or invest in technology day in, day out. And technology changes. By the time the iPhone comes today, they are thinking of the next one to launch in 5 years' time. Even within the 5 years, they'll be launching each year. You see, and the technology is different.
You see, for me, there is an aspect of this that just never ceases to baffle me. When the NDC was in power, they started to build a fiber broadband backbone or whatever they call it.
The fiber optic.
Yes, across the country, to improve on some of these things. And the telcos were asking, why are you spending government funds on this? If you make the environment conducive for us, the telcos, we'll build it ourselves. If you make it easy for us to operate, if you make the cost of our doing business come down, if you give us constant supply of electricity so we don't have to keep buying generators for all of our masts, if you give us tax breaks so that we can make a little bit more money, we will build the thing ourselves. We want customers. The customers are out there. We want them to have phones and use our data in our network. So just make the circumstances conducive for us, and we'll do it. By the way, the person who told me this is now the chairman of the board of NCA, Kweku Sechiado. Today he's at the NCA.
No, he's the chairman of the board.
Yes, he's the chairman of the board at the NCA.
Overseeing strategy.
Yes, indeed. And his institution is reporting to a ministry that has 2 telco operatives, practitioners.
Former practitioners.
There is no excuse for government not understanding what's happening with telcos.
I think they do. The thing is that government finds itself in a certain catch-22 situation. We need
money.
We need the money.
Well, the telcos say,
and we have to be realistic. We need the money.
The telcos say they will pay the tax.
Yes,
but that means things will be more expensive for us.
I asked the Ghana Telecoms Chamber, why is it that you didn't tell the ministry? And this one, they had to tell 2 ministries because finance takes care of the money, and then communication is the oversight ministry. And they said, well, once you've passed it and Parliament has approved, and the president has assented, we don't have to come and tell you. We are supposed to just inform you. So that's what they did.
Yeah,
so they are right.
Yeah, I don't really understand what the government is expecting.
Yeah,
isn't it the tax that they want?
Yeah. So consumers
now they
are
want
going
to tell a private business
are going to
how
pay
to.
more. And so basically it means that if 1 Ghana cedi, yes, you're going to get a 1 Ghana cedi. But if you're getting 5 Ghana cedi talk time or 1 minute or 5 minutes talk time, is now going to be around 3 thereabout, and you just have to manage with what you have.
But the hope is that the telcos will also do some promotions every now and then to ease the burden on customers. That is a hope, okay? Wow. But of course, these promotions cost a lot of money to these telcos. Yes. A lot of money. So we'll see how it works out. Now, these two stories in the Daily Graphic have caught my attention. The page 3 story about 30 children who are pitched camp in a church. I mean,
I seem to have a soft spot for child abuse cases.
Yeah, it truly bothers me, especially the fact that many Ghanaians don't quite even understand what is abuse of children and what isn't. Meanwhile, we have the Constitution.
We feel
it's a minor crime or a minor...
And we find it difficult trying to accept what the reality is.
I'm very concerned about that. Anyway, so this is what's happening. More than 30 primary school pupils and junior high school students have abandoned their homes, families, and education to seek salvation at the Synagogue of Mercy, a church in Nambeg, which is in the Japa municipality of the Upper West region. Now, parents and community leaders are livid over the role of Pastor Charles Ansuanu, forgive me if I've got the name wrong, whom they accuse of harboring the minors after indoctrinating them to quitting school to pursue religious redemption.
Wow.
The children aged between 10 and 18 now reside on the church premises, but it's not clear how they feed themselves or where exactly they sleep at night, as they're not prepared to answer any questions on the premises. The Daily Graphic, forgive me, visited the church about 3 weeks ago and observed about 30 young boys and girls who were on the premises. And the premises that they describe is a simple shed roofed with corrugated iron sheets and a bare floor. Some of the children were engaged in fetching water, tidying the church grounds, and arranging the benches that served as pews against the background of gospel songs from an electronic sound player. Look, this story will shock you. Okay, get more of the detail from the Daily Graphic. But for me, the biggest shock is where is law enforcement in this? Where is government in this? Because what is happening here is kidnapping. It's kidnapping. The parents have not given this pastor custody of their children. The schools have not given their children exeats or leave to depart from school and go there. So has nobody reported this to the police, to the authorities? Has the school not filed a report? If I take my child to a school and I hear that my child has disappeared from the school and is at a compound seeking salvation, the headmaster will require salvation of his own. So why is nothing happening? Or is this because it is in a remote part of the country, Jirapa? Is that not part of Ghana? Please, this one cannot continue beyond 24 hours. It's now in the Daily Graphic. Nobody has any excuse for claiming they don't know about it. The police can't say they are sitting there waiting for a report. 30 children are in the custody of some pastor, refusing to speak. We can't sit around and wait. I beg you. As for this one, let's act like a country that works, that has laws. Let's go to the aid of these children immediately. 30 of them. Can you believe?
In 1998, we all decided that through the state, Ghana, we were going to sign on to that convention, the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. We have a Children's Act.
Yeah.
And if you look at the content of that act, fantastic. Indeed, I ascribe to the refrains constantly of Asa Nkoma, the top legal practitioner, about how we have every regulation in our country which we don't seem to follow or implement. And if you look at the content of the Children's Act, if we were to be implementing that content or every regulation in the Children's Act or article in the Children's Act, we wouldn't have been where we are, because people in various positions of responsibility would have been taken on if they flouted their roles or seemed to be the guiding keepers of children in our country. Parents are flouting the rights of children. Siblings are flouting. Ordinary members of the public are flouting the rights of children. And we seem to just sit and watch. Now, in other societies, those who tend to flout the rights of children are punished severely. And the children is given the preferential treatment because the children are said to be innocent.
And you know, you talked about how beautifully our laws are written.
Yes, we have beautiful laws. We do have beautiful laws.
The Children's Act, in fact, the Constitution, forget about the Children's Act which came later, the Constitution itself states that in everything we do, the interest of the child should be paramount. That's our constitution, the highest law of the land. In everything we do, the interest of the child should be paramount. So I want to ask, that's for the pastor. He's committing a crime, so I can't really ask him anything. But the school, are they putting the interest of the child paramount when they allow 30 of them to abandon school and go there? It may not be a boarding school, but during the day, they have custody over them. And these children, apparently, according to this story, this pastor was a teacher in the school, Jahan College of Education in Wa. Okay. No. He trained at the Jahan College of Education in Wa, and he taught at the Yaga Municipal Assembly, JHS, from 2014 until July this year, when he was transferred to a school at Nambeg, which is his hometown. And according to the head teacher of the Yaga MA Junior High School where he was teaching, the children abandoned the classroom in droves to follow Mr. Answanu as he left to pursue his pastoral calling. So you, headmaster, Mr. Joseph Kogro, when the children in your care were leaving to follow a teacher,
you just watch.
You just watch them.
You don't invoke any regulation of the Ghana education
You don't even
system,
report it.
which empowers you.
You don't report it to the police because there's a crime. This is kidnapping. I don't know why this is confusing to anybody. This is kidnapping. Look, in everything we do, the best interest of the child should come first. The police officers in Wa, when you wake up this morning, before you go and stand by the roadside organizing traffic, the interest of the child should come first. Before you go and sit in your office typing reports, the interest of the child should come first. Before you sit around and tell the press that you are waiting for someone to come and report it to you, it's in the daily graphic, and the interest of the child comes first. Let's not pretend we don't know what we are doing in this country. Some of the police officers that I have met are highly skilled, extremely educated, and in full grasp of the tenets of the law. So they have no excuse. Please, save these children. Save them, 30 of them. Hey, we play too much.
All right, so let's go to myjoyonline.com. We have a couple of stories there. So we have, well, the Scotland clock that is almost never on time. Is Edinburgh's landmark clock tower, being responsible for keeping commuters and travelers on time for more than a century, and yet it looks just never to be correct. I don't know. That's one. And then we have Saudi Arabia says journalist was murdered, blames rogues.
Hey.
Jamal Khashoggi.
So you remember a few days ago, Donald Trump, when he was asked about this, the day that he took the umbrella off his wife's head, when he was asked about this, about a week ago, you remember his exact words. He said he doesn't want to go into the mind of the prince, but he is speculating that maybe it was some rogue killers that killed the journalist. So Donald Trump, ahead of the Saudi statement,
has been advised. Now we know that he already knew, so he's been advising the Saudi.
Rogue killers.
Anyway.
Hey.
But I don't know. I think this has given a certain negative reputation to Saudi Arabia across the world.
Yeah.
Even in Ghana, you get, even among some of my Muslim friends on Facebook and the rest of social media, the sentiment is not a very good one.
Yeah,
already, you know, we have our own difficulties with the way they treat those from our country who go seek employment. In their country.
Yeah.
Now let's move on. We have some other stories there. Teenage pregnancy, how a daughter's growing belly earns her a mother's growling slap.
Wow.
Okay. So let's...
What's a growling slap?
Maybe
a slap that comes with a growl. Hey.
Okay.
Okay. Sierra Leone's Bio visits Ghana today.
You know, I nearly said Sierra Leone's bio.
Yes.
Bio, yeah.
Bio will be here later today. Artist creates a seemingly magical book that glows from within. Wow, I'd love to see that. Ohashi is the one who created it. 27-year-old woman marries best friend's 52-year-old dad. Hey, when love strikes, there's nothing you can do. Can you imagine marrying one of your daughter's friends? Okay. Wow. Show us which of your social intervention policies relieved hardship. Baumia taunts NDC. Unfortunately, the NDC's record with social interventions has not been a very straightforward one. The ones that come to mind are all quite bad. You know, Sada, Jida, you know. Okay, moving on. Siblings remanded for incest in Elmina. Oh, my word. Yeah, details are on myjoyonline.com.
All right, so let's scroll up. Class 1 boy traumatized after cleaner insert finger into anus.
Oh,
I've told all my boys, 2 boys, anybody calls them, they should come and tell me. Anybody tries anything funny, they should come and tell me.
It's an important part of being a parent now. Having that unfortunate conversation, that awkward conversation with your child about sex abuse.
Then they keep asking you, oh, how do you mean? What do you mean? Anyway, so let's go to the BBC. Saudis admits journalist was murdered. And then we have other stories there. Tobacco firm. Okay. Australia apologizes to sex abuse victims. We have other stories. Keeps changing. Clashes at market kill 55 in Nigeria. And kidnappers release the Tanzanian billionaire. He's back in his house. He's Africa's youngest billionaire.
Somebody paid something, I'm sure.
Looks like
now, just before we're
older than this guy, aren't we?
Yeah, I think so. Just before we hand over for sports, though, there was this story I was going to mention just quickly. This Irishman who was arrested at Tema Port's restricted area. Now, they've given his name as David Kammermeyer, and there's a passport that has his picture in it and his name. But according to the story, it was also discovered during interrogation that Kammermeyer had in his possession about 5 different passports of different nationalities.
Wow.
Okay, so I wonder, did the passports have different names or different dates of birth? Because that would already be a crime in itself. That would immediately mean that he's...
and one of the personnel who was instrumental in his capture was one Lieutenant Colonel Punamani, your deputy boss of security. You've been seconded from the Ghana Armed Forces to the Ghana Port and Harbours Authority, especially the Tema Port. Good morning to you and all the good work you're doing out there.
But I wonder, this guy, apparently he was being helped by some 2 Ghanaians. Is he a spy or something? Well, we need to.
If you go further into the story, they said that one of the power barges that's located at the port has been the target for some time now for some terrorism activities. Yeah, so they've been tracing the issue and getting some intel on the subject. But we have to bring the latest sports headlines. We know what took place over the weekend. It was a great match on Saturday, but also we had great matches on Sunday. But we have other related sports news, and Benedict Owusu and Selwyn Saki will be here with the latest. You watch any of the matches over the weekend?
I missed them all because I was at the most beautiful wedding ever. Bernice Abubedu's marriage to Sule Lansa.
Mrs. Lansa, good morning to you.